Awesome, awesome. Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in for another episode of Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. I am your host, Tony Lynch, and I have another amazing guest for you, Anandhi. I'm pretty sure I slaughtered her name, but she's going to tell me about it sooner or later. She's laughing at me. She is here to bless us with her story. She has an amazing journey. We talked a little bit before we start recording, and I want you guys to sit back and just enjoy this conversation. Be sure to leave us a comment and let us know how you like the conversation. And our information will be down below when it's posted. So be sure to reach out to it. How you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Exactly. So for the record, pronounce your name for the audience.
It's Anandhi Narasimhan.
I like that. See, I would have truly slaughtered her name. So you guys forgive me about that. I know you guys are going to give me a hard time, but that's fine too. So we was talking a little bit. Tell us a little bit about the work that you do.
So I'm a child and adult psychiatrist.
Mm,
So I originally kind of wanted to be a surgeon when I was studying medicine. I liked working with my hands, and I just loved the operating room. But I noticed there wasn't a lot of follow-up after you cut a patient up. It's not like you're with them, you're on their journey afterwards, or you don't help them emotionally. And I ended up working with a mentor of mine who became my boss, and I did something called neuroimaging research, whereas we studied the brain. And
mhm,
I was like, wow, there's just so much that we don't know about the brain. And as part of the research, I had to interview children. And I was just kind of like hooked then. I found the mind fascinating. I found working with young people just truly like refreshing and inspiring and humbling. And so that's how I ended up going into psychiatry. And it's been really like a passion of the heart. I love what I do, and I worked in different spaces, and now I work with a nonprofit called Masada Homes, and I'm an independent contractor for them. I'm a psychiatrist for them, and I've worked in different arenas with patients who've come from a lot of trauma. Child psychiatry, we see a lot of trauma. And I see adults too who deal with a lot of environmental issues like homelessness and substance use and, different mental illnesses and gun violence and all of that. And, I've spent some time working in the federal prison, doing forensic evaluations to determine competency to stand trial. So, like, I really, met people from different walks of life, and it has been truly an honor to like have the opportunity to do this profession. Even though, it's funny as I'm saying that, I'm like, hey, I should be this grateful all the time when have a mountain of paperwork to do, and I'm like, I hate this, I hate this, but like, no, it is what an honor that this was my path. And I've also, on the side gotten to do a lot of like media work, and the feedback that I get from that, the interviews that I do, it keeps me going, and it makes me more motivated to want to like teach or explain,
mhm.
because I think if you ask a lot of people, they want to feel like their healthcare professional is approachable, and they want to feel like that person's human and not just looking at them like a statistic or like something on an assembly line to just medicate and move along. And
Right.
so just the connection, the human connection is what makes my work valuable, and it is what makes me want to like kind of spread that and allow people to know about it, because I know not everybody is going to a psychiatrist or a therapist or getting mental health, and mental health has been so stigmatized for eons.
Yes,
So
yes,
now I think we're finally getting to this place where at least we can talk about it a little bit more. So I just want to like remove that stigma around it and make people feel like, look, mental health is important for all of us, and we all go through this thing called suffering in life.
yes,
And you know, uh it's profoundly important to have some support through that. So yeah, that's and then I've done some research as well to try and move the field forward too. But I wrote a book because I wanted the information just to be more available to people. Like, and so the book, it's called How Concerned Should I Be? And what I did is I just made it a question answer format of questions people ask me
right.
and my answers to it. So, and my thoughts. And so it was interesting, but little did I know when I was writing the book, and somebody pointed it out on page 10 that it's kind of ominous. I wrote about what I would be going through. So
And that,
beforehand. So weird. So it makes me like, geez, I gotta be careful what I write. I don't want things
but you
coming
know,
to fruition because I write about it, but it's my work. So it's like
yes, I
stuff
was
I would
about to say,
naturally write about anyhow. But it's just, kind of interesting that you you think something or have some thought earlier in life, and it is the thing that you grapple or struggle with later in life that you didn't know was coming. But
yeah.
you did, your soul did in some way,
In
maybe.
some way, it kind of
Yeah,
guides us, right? It kind of
yeah.
guides us where we need to be, which is amazing. You know, I read that you was on CNN, correct?
Hmm.
And you've done a couple of interviews with them. How excited is that, right?
How exciting is
Yeah,
that? I
how
mean, I
excited
have
is
to be
that?
honest, like, oh gosh, this is gonna sound without sounding vain, but getting your hair and makeup done it's fun. It's that part is like interesting and fun, but no, exciting. The topics were so serious
Mhm.
usually that it wasn't like, oh wow, like I'm going to an amusement park. It was like, this is heavy stuff, and I better do diligence to it and deliver it like, deliver my answer in a way that's reachable and it makes a difference. So there was this weight of responsibility, to speak on these kind of large platforms. But at the same time, like I would get feedback, sometimes good, sometimes bad, from people from all over the world. And it was
Mhm.
like, wow, people listen to what you say, what I had to say. So it just kind of was a big honor and like a responsibility too. So
Okay. Now you have your own personal journey, which led you into the work that you're doing as well. You want to talk a little bit about that? I know we talked before we started recording and everything,
yeah, I
Um,
mean, how far back does, the journey go? Like my family, we were immigrants to this country, and my parents had to work really hard. They came here without much, and you know, there's a lot of adversity, that they dealt with, and opportunities they didn't get because of who they were and the time that they came here, and like how they were perceived, or things that I wish would had been easier for them, as immigrants in this country, to Pennsylvania.
mm,
And parts of Pennsylvania are interesting.
oh,
Yeah.
yes.
I remember when I was about 7, 6, 7, we took like a cross country road trip, and we stopped for lunch at a Best Western. And it's funny. I'm even bringing this up on my grief journey because I came here to talk about the more recent loss, and I'm going back and bringing up this. But like, we stopped at this Best Western or some kind of hotel, like motel like that, and we stopped for lunch, and um, the waitress came and sat us in the middle of this little restaurant, but wouldn't serve us. And
Mm.
we sat there for like about 45 minutes. And the people who came after us, they were served, they got their food. But my parents, we just sat there with the menus. Nobody took our order. Nobody did anything, and so it was humiliating. And I could feel my parents' humiliation. And this was my first interaction with this kind of hate, you
Yeah.
know? And so after about like 45 minutes of this, my parents were just like, let's leave. So we got up and left. And my parents, and I think this was a time where, as an immigrant, you tried to be nice. You didn't go fight. You didn't go, you just left grateful that you left with your body intact, right? Like that nobody did anything worse. But
Yeah.
I remember that to this day. I remember how that felt and like the isolation and the like public humiliation of that.
Hmm.
So, what do you call that? Like that was a
That is
minor loss or what,
no,
but
it's a major loss.
it's a
Because
sentient memory in my
right,
life,
right. And I hate
that
that, you know, I can
this is
relate
the
to that.
this is a reality of a world I didn't know,
Hmm.
one that wasn't going to be very welcoming of anybody who looked like me.
Yeah.
So, there were a couple of things like that, and then the injustice of it, and the feeling that there was no recourse. And then I think as time on, my parents, they got a little better at fighting battles, or like, I think they said something to somebody at Denny's or something, and then we were treated like really wonderfully. I mean, there was some advocacy later that I saw, but like there was always this, oof, back and forth of, yeah. And I remember had memories of, a kid in high school telling me I didn't deserve to live in the neighborhood that I kind of lived in, and my parents were taking jobs from people. Anyhow, stuff like that, bullying, things like
Hmm.
that, and then feeling, even from my own community, colorism, a lot
Hmm.
of stuff that I dealt with. Well, anyway, I got my education and you know, that was a struggle. And I got this medical degree and I got into psychiatry and I was doing my residency training and fellowship. And during this time, my father's health was failing. He had diabetes and he started getting, he had a heart attack while I was in med school and had a lot of complications from that. And then he developed kidney failure. So, as time went on, I saw him deteriorate and then he ended up on dialysis. And then, his thing was he wanted me married and settled. That was the Indian way. And that was for him, like, it was his responsibility to make sure that happened. So that didn't happen while he was alive. And he died while I was working. And I was just devastated. And I had all this guilt that I didn't do this for him. I didn't complete these things, before, and I wanted to. It just wasn't working out. And um, anyhow, so I spent like a good solid year grieving that, and maybe a little longer. And then after that, anniversaries were difficult, and I was like, okay, well, this is. A one challenge that I dealt with my life. And then eventually, I mean, I wanted to find the right guy and get married and have kids. And that wasn't happening, and I was getting older and my biological clock was like breaking down a little bit here and there. And finally I meet this guy through friends and he's just not what I imagined, like that I would be with in some ways, but in other ways we were like soulmates. My husband was this blonde, blue-eyed guy who lived a life kind of somewhat similar and somewhat very different than I lived. And but we just had this rare combination of connection and compatibility that is just almost like the spiritual thing that you don't find, that's rare. And we just could make each other laugh so easily. And, it just grew. And then we got married, and then we both wanted a family. And I got pregnant quickly, but I lost it. And then that happened again and again, like I lost the pregnancy. And so I had, a couple of miscarriages. And then we went through IVF, and I had about, I don't know, 12 surgical procedures, and nothing was working out. It just wasn't working out. And finally, in May of 2021, I got pregnant. And we also found out my husband had melanoma cancer. Right before that, he had swelling in his groin. I thought it was a hernia because we were moving. We had just bought a house, and we were moving out of my condo, and I was like, that we're just gonna have to deal with that. That's annoying, but we can take care of it.
Right.
But he went and got it checked out, and it wasn't that. It was cancer. And we were told the prognosis was very good, so we were hopeful. So he got surgery, and they removed the lymph nodes. Um, and then he started immunotherapy for melanoma. And then, we had been staying at a rental. We moved into our new house, and we moved in this house. And just for like, I don't know, a week or so, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm getting everything I ever wanted in life. Like my husband. Um, I didn't add that right before I got married, my mom got this horrible infection called C. diff colitis. And it was really severe. She ended up in the hospital. And then while she was in the hospital, an x-ray technician, I don't know if you've ever read this book, Cast, but it talks about how sometimes we turn on each other, like
Yeah.
minorities. Anyway, an x-ray technician crushed her hip um, against a film, and she got a huge hematoma, and it looked like somebody took a baseball bat to her hip. So from that, my mom lost a lot of blood. And so I think it just tipped her over. Like, she was already sick and gradually recovering. And then she gets injured like this. And it was horrible. She was in so much pain. So then after that, I noticed my mom started having like memory stuff happening. Like she would just leave her apartment, forget to wear her shoes, or just things like that. And then that progressed. And my mom now has dementia. So that was my big grief after I got married, dealing with her and having to face that, and the pregnancy losses and the infertility stuff. So I was dealing with those two things. And then there were some other stresses, as life gives us. But
Mm.
so then you know, I thought, gosh, I've gone through enough. This is enough. And then my husband gets this cancer, and we move here, and I'm like, you know what? Look, it's sad my mom's like this, but I'm pregnant. I got my husband. We've got this, beautiful house, and life is okay. But then he starts to tell me, he's been having some back pain. His back hurts. And then the back pain goes away, and then it comes back, and then we go to he goes to urgent care, and then they send him away. He goes to the ER. And then we finally find out that the cancer spread to his spine. And then after that, we changed treatments, but then he started having complications, blood clots to his lung. And then the cancer, it had gone in his spine, and it caused fractures in the vertebra, which compressed the nerves. So then started the incredible pain that we couldn't even manage. Like we tried all sorts of meds, and it's like I had to go from pharmacy to pharmacy and beg them to give my husband his methadone, because they thought, this was a drug seeking situation, because different doctors were prescribing, and it was, you know, we couldn't stop it. At that point, it became like a freight train. The cancer just plowed through him, and like it just was devastating. And I was pregnant. I was a high risk pregnancy, and I was running around with taking him to the hospital. And then I'd be up most of the night because he'd be in so much pain. And then the adrenaline of, my gosh, this is bad. This is getting worse. And then so I ended up delivering my baby. It was not an easy, it was a kind of a traumatic delivery. And then I got a nerve injury, and I couldn't walk. And I came home from and I fell in the hospital and all this. And I came home from the hospital and we had one day together as a family. And then the next morning he woke up with terrible belly pain. And then we called the ambulance and he died right after 2 days later. So he didn't really get to bond with the baby. He got to hold the baby, but you know, that was it. It just so and of course, when you give birth, like you deal with all the hormones and your body's physically and you have this newborn and then I had my husband who had died. So it was I thought I had dealt with enough challenges or but it was almost like and my pregnancy was a twin pregnancy, so I lost the other twin in the early part of the pregnancy. It was a vanishing twin to kind of just got absorbed. So, it's like nothing, it's almost like all those losses prepared me for the ultimate loss. Um, so that's kind of my story and what happened. And you know, it's it's just wow. It just I made it through the first year. I can say that, and my son so far is healthy, and I'm grateful, very grateful for that. So, um, yeah, that's my story.
Wow, that is truly um, amazing that you're still here, and I'm thankful that you are still here and doing the work that you're doing because you're doing some amazing things, and I'm sorry that you had to go through some traumatic situations. And so my heart is with you. My heart is definitely with you. Thank you for sharing that journey with me. And which leads me to the next thing, your book. You wrote a book.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it was like kind of a 2-year project. It's called How Concerned Should I Be? And my husband was like the biggest promoter of this book. He was in the hospital handing out copies to all the staff there, the nurses and everybody, which was so sweet. But he was kind of the person who encouraged me to do this and get an editor and really commit to it. And I always wanted to write a book. So basically what I thought was, I would often get people calling me and asking me this about their child. And, I just thought, gosh, I wish I could just like some of these questions are the themes are similar. And I
Mhm.
wish I could just share it, to a broader audience. And not just during a media interview segment, that lasts like a few minutes or so, So I kind of put this labor of love where I just thought of all the questions people ask me and I just thought of how I answered it or how I approached it because uh, I think so much of guiding future generations is, or even current generation, whatever,
Mhm.
it's so nuanced, right? Like that emotional tenderness is
Yes.
not like a black and white kind of prescription kind of thing. Like you just don't, hey, you buy some clothes for your kid, you feed them, you put them in school. Like sometimes people will do those things,
Hmm.
but get all the like soft stuff, like kind of lost in translation or just not know. And I didn't, it's, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for my training because it gives me a certain kind of intuition, which an intuition is like a combination of experience and knowledge, right? But
Hmm.
so it gives me a little bit of something of what a healthy environment looks like, you know.
Yes.
So so that's kind of, what I did with it. And then, he died and then I just kind of like didn't do anything with promoting it or anything. So, but now I'm like, I think my husband would want me to like have this information accessible to people and talk about it and let people know, hey, this book exists. It's not like no book is going to solve life's problems completely, but it might be just a start, a
Yeah.
book, a conversation with us just kind of changing our perspective a little bit here and there. Like,
Yeah.
and I think that bleakness I think you described in grief, like
Hmm.
when you're so in it, it's hard to see the light. It's hard to see, you know, I think I said this even a couple of weeks ago, like I feel like sometimes it's a life sentence. Watching my son grow up, without knowing who his father is ever, and like it just, and I have to confront that, and every day, like with this, all the little moments, and I think, um, you know, um, it's a life sentence in a way. Like any loss seems like a life sentence, but I think that um believing in what you can't see
Yes,
is sometimes critical.
it is. It is. You got to have faith, man. I'm a firm believer in that as well. Keep your faith strong. And, just to add to what you were saying, your son will know who his dad is. He may not meet him, but through you, because you're going to keep his memory alive. You have his child. And so, I can only see you teaching your son about, the wonderful person his dad was. And so therefore he will have some sort of idea as he's getting older that, like, yeah, my dad may not have the chance to meet me, but through my mother, I feel as if I know him. Right. And that's a beautiful thing. That is don't ever deny yourself that. I mean, wow, how amazing is that? Right?
Tony, can I ask you something? When you hear
Yes.
me talk about this problem that I have, like, oh, my son won't know his dad, what do you think when you hear that? Because as I was saying it, I was thinking of your tragedy, and I'm like, my God, this, like, it's humbling. It's humbling telling you this,
Right.
knowing what you've gone through. Like, I just, I think, and I think I say this because I think so much of misery and grief sometimes comes from comparing ourselves
Yes.
with others. Like,
Yes.
oh, that person, they have a family, they have a nuclear family with the
Mhm.
mom and the dad, so I'll do that, and I'll be like,
Yeah.
well, I don't have that, my child doesn't have that, or like, and I think that's with anything. I mean, what do you do with that? Like, how, I mean, as you listen to my story,
Yeah.
does that come up like, wow, she's complaining about this? I mean, at least she has her kid.
No,
How
I
could you
don't. I
not
don't.
think that? How
I
could you
don't
not
think
think
that
that?
at all. I do not think that at all
Mm.
because it's unfair for me to think that, right? And like each and every last one of our journeys are individual. It's personal. It's a personal journey. And so, yes, it's very humbling. Now I will look at it and go, man, you have the best opportunity in the world. You have a great opportunity. You have the opportunity to not only pour into your son, right? But you pour into other children as well. So that to me is like a beautiful blessing. And don't ever compare yourself to anyone else because it can get you. It can definitely get you. And I understand that as well, right? But that's okay because you have an opportunity that a lot of people don't get to have, that don't get that chance, right? You have the opportunity to raise your child. You have the opportunity to keep your husband's memory alive through him, but also through yourself and through the work that you do. So keep your head up, keep a smile on your face. Yes, it's humbling, and but don't compare yourself to the next person because you don't know what they're going through neither. You don't know what they're going through.
Well, in a world where, social media reigns, like, I
Yeah.
think it's such a, weird thing that everybody, people put pictures
Hmm.
that are so disconnected from their reality often,
Right.
you know, like, so it gets deceiving, like,
So,
you
well,
know.
look at it this way. Yes, on their end, right? So, how do you use your social media? Do you use yours as a connecting tool, right? You know what I'm saying? Do you use yours to share the memories that you had, right? Being genuine about it, because that's what I do, right? I don't hide anything from anyone. But
Hmm.
when I talk to other people, even in the beginning, um, what after shortly after I lost my son, people used to come to me and used to compare, right? Their loss of a pet to the loss of my son, and I used to get upset about it. And I was like, "How are you going to compare that?" But over
Yeah.
time, life humbled me, and it put me in a state of humility, right? Because I realized that they were doing the best that they could to connect with me,
Yeah. And that's
right?
how they tried
Yeah.
to.
And so I started feeling that blessing. I started feeling my heart, beat again. And when I used to see people with their kids and have their mother and their father and their siblings with them and things like that, I go, wow, that's such a true blessing right there. And they look, because sometimes they would get nervous and they would go, oh man, I didn't mean to bring. I'm like, no, no, you don't understand. And once upon a time, I had that too. So no, cherish those moments that you have with your family, because I understand, just like you do, that tomorrow is not promised to neither one of us, right? And so cherish those moments. If you can get those years out of them and enjoy those memories, create the best memories that you possibly can.
Yeah.
Because that's all you have, right? You have the laughter, you have the times that you can focus on watching your son grow up. You have the times where you can learn, right? To be better at the job that you do, to be able to pour into other people, but also be a role model, because people are looking at you. Look, you are well accomplished. You're very well accomplished, right? I read your bio and I'm just looking, going, man, how can I get up to that level? How can I go out there and share my story as well? And you inspire me. You inspire me to want to take everything to the next level, to want to go out there and share that story, to go out there and reach as many people as I possibly can. And because I'm a servant, I'm a servant. I'm dedicated to serving other people in their journey, and giving and pouring into them, and not having any expectations, right, about anything except for, what can I do next? I know what I'm here for. I know what my gift is. And I look for those opportunities to give it away, right? Because I can't carry it with me. And I know that when I look at the next person, I pour into them, I know that my family is looking over top of me going, that's the way that you're supposed to do it. And I receive that, right? I receive that. I don't do it for the money. I don't do it for the fame. I don't do it for any of that. I do it because it makes me feel good.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
biggest thing. Do things that make you feel good. So, no, when I hear your story, you inspire me, because that's a strong story. And that right there, to be able to share that with my audience and things like that, they're going to look at it too and go, wow, that's a strong, awesome story. And they're gonna want to connect with you. They're gonna want to know more and things like that, right? And that's what it's all about. That's exactly what it's all about. Now let's talk about, because kids are a little bit like, kids make me nervous. That's the only
Hmm.
reason why I never got into helping kids and things like that. But I always love watching them run around and smile. It reminds me of watching my son, right? And not in a hurtful way. It's in a beautiful way, right? Because my son, he used to love going out there and climbing trees, and I used to climb those trees right with him, right? Throwing around the balls, and beat each other up with pillows and things like that. These are a few memories that I carry along with me. So when I used to go to the park and watch the kids swing on the swing, because those same kids that I used to swing on the swing with my son, I still go over there, I see them, and I still jump on the monkey bars with them, and they still kick me off the monkey bars. You're too big, Tony.
Hmm.
And I get off and I go climb a tree and I just watch them. Next thing you know, all the kids are climbing the trees with me, and they come and ask me questions. So, about my son. like, do I think, what sort of life or what sort of human being do I think he would have been, if he would have made it, to see 9 years old and, so forth and so forth. He would have been 15 this year, and I often think to myself, like, wow, what sort of man would he have become? And then I think about it and I go, he would have been a good man because I was a great father. And he did everything that he could to make sure that he knew that I knew that I was a great father. So it's things like that that keeps me focused and keeps me moving forward, right? It's the memories that I cherish. Yes, he's gone, but I was blessed. I was blessed because I got the chance to raise him for 8 years. For 8 years. And not too many, there's people out there that wish that they would have that opportunity. You have a great opportunity. You have an awesome opportunity, right? Take that opportunity and smile. Keep your head up. Enjoy the tears if they come. You inspire a lot of people, and me included. So, yeah, that's what I feel when I hear your story. You inspire me. Thank you for being you and doing the work that you're doing and, helping these kids out and things like that, because that means so much. It truly means so much. And don't take that away from yourself.
Thanks. I wanted to just touch upon what you said about tears.
Yeah.
Because tears is part of grief, and sometimes you cry so much your eyes hurt, and like
Yeah.
I remember in the beginning, it just the waterworks were just like there, and
Yes.
I remember, and you know what you said when people would talk about losing a pet or whatever and comparing it, like, and how they're trying to connect. I think, when my husband died, I was just flooded with people were posting pictures and sending me pictures of my husband with their kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I have this newborn, I'm holding this newborn, and I would look at these pictures and just burst out crying, like, and
Mm-hmm.
it would be like a gut punch every time. And so it was easier just to
Blow it
like
off.
block all of
Mm-hmm.
any attempts at connecting with me, because it would sometimes just the way of trying to connect was just too painful,
Yes.
and now I can say, well, at least those children got to experience my husband. They
Yeah, you
got
know
to
what?
see his beauty, and like,
Mm-hmm.
but at the time it was so painful to know it. But it's interesting because I think you don't have to fear the tears. You
No,
don't have to fear them.
those
And they
kids.
come. I mean, the other day, my son was playing peekaboo with a blanket with me, and he starts laughing hysterically, and I start laughing with him. And then it was such like this moment of unbridled joy.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately I start crying, right, as it was happening. And I turned my head because I didn't want him to see, but it was just like, man, I don't know when those moments are going to happen, like where the smile will be followed by
Mm-hmm.
grief. But I've learned, you know to be fearless about it, you know
Grief is
and
messy. Grief is very, very messy, right? And there's those moments will come, they will go. Sometimes they may hang around with you for a little bit. Lean into it,
hmm
into your grief, because that's in those moments, your grief is saying, hey, I need you to remember this, right? I want you to, I want you to recognize that, you had something beautiful. And yes, that person's not here in a physical sense, but they're still here in a spiritual sense, right? Their energy is still around you.
funny you said that, and I was just thinking that very thought, and I wanted to ask you your thoughts on the whole metaphysical part of it. Like, I don't know, like sometimes believing in whatever you believe in, reincarnation, or like that they exist and they're watching us, or they're like here with us,
Yeah.
just not physically. Sometimes those thoughts get me through. And for some people, they don't have that, they don't believe in it.
And that's
So
fine.
I just wondering, like, for you, like, How much is that part of your healing? This belief in the
It's a huge part of
afterlife?
my healing, because I know that one day I have to leave this place, right? And the people that I leave behind are going to be hurting as well. They're going to be sad. And I know that now, my son is looking over me. I can still hear his voice, Daddy, Daddy, I love you. I can still feel his presence going, you know, it's going to be okay, Daddy. Or, him cracking a joke, or my mother, telling me, you got this, baby boy. And my father telling me, I told you you was going to do something good with your life. My younger brother looking over me and going, I told you, when you get up here, we're going to have it out one of these times. Because my younger brother, I used to be a fighter, and my younger brother was always, inspired about that. He was like, I'm going to be like my brother one of these days. I can still hear all of that stuff. But most importantly, when I am down, when I am feeling a certain way, I can feel that gentle touch on me, and those goosebumps come in. I'm reminded of the love that was shared with me. I'm reminded of the memories that I had from a child growing up and things like that, right? And I know that they're still there. I know that they're still there, because if they wasn't there, I wouldn't be where I am right now. That
Mhm.
comes from somewhere else. Because if I had it my way, I would have went into a hole somewhere and just balled up and cried. And I still have those nights. I still have those moments where I do ball up and cry. And I allow myself to feel. I allow myself to go through the motions. I don't deny myself that anymore, because it's a part of who I am. And every time I go through those emotions, I learn something from it. Why do I feel this way? Oh, that's right. Because I loved. See, that's the price of our love that we give. That is
Yeah.
the price. Now, if you look at it on the other end, if it was you and I was talking to your husband, I'm pretty sure he'd be saying the same thing, feeling the same way, right? It's the price that we have for the love that we give, right? We gave it freely. So, yes, when he passed, we do hurt. And they know that, but they are constantly telling us, hey, don't worry, I'm still here. I'm in the breeze. I'm in the flowers that you see all the time. I'm in the child that you have right there. When you look at your child, you see your husband, right? When he look at his mother, he sees his mother that was full of love and is still full of love. And that's what he focuses on, right? That doesn't go anywhere. That doesn't go anywhere at all. So allow yourself to go through those motions, allow yourself to grieve. That's what it's meant for. It's the way that we honor them. It is the way that we show that, hey, you're not forgotten. So every time you cry or something like that, that smile will come. It may not come right away, right? But it will come. On those gloomy days and you're lost in your thoughts, think about the thoughts that you're thinking. It's a beautiful thing. As painful as it can be, it's a beautiful thing, because that's what they gave us. That's exactly what they gave us. They ain't gonna let nothing happen to you. I promise you, they're not going to let nothing happen to you. They want you, just like your father would. You think about the past and the things that you guys went through and things like that. Your father's looking over top of you and he's proud of you, right? Your mother may have dementia, but she still remembers a little girl. I promise you. There may be times where she may not remember, but in here, she knows who you are. Just like that child, he's going to be a great man, because you're going to make sure of it. And that's just the way that this life is. There's nothing um, that says that we're exempt from any of this pain.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. No amount of education
No,
or
it's what you do with
money
it.
or anything.
Yeah, it's what you do with it, though.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's what you do with it that matters. If you can find a way to turn your pain into something that you can give other people, that's a true blessing right there, right? Because then you become something more. You become a mentor to those who are struggling, right? You can use your experiences, and look at them and go, look, I'm still here. You can still be here as well, but let me help you. you know turn it into a way to serve. That's the biggest thing that I learned after my son passed away and my mother passed away. Servitude. I began to live within my love language, right? Acts of service. And I started looking at it, and I sometimes laugh about it, right? Because people ask me, how did you, why are you so dedicated to this? I said, because it makes me feel good. And it's the most selfish thing that I do. And what I mean by that is selfless in the fact of that I can give myself to someone with my experiences I've learned. I let my grief become my mentor. It's become my greatest teacher. And this thing that it opened up inside of me, it allows me to share my journey, as crazy as it may be or sound. It allows me to share that journey in a way to where it's authentic.
Tell me about like I'm trying to flip this interview
No,
around,
you're fine. That's
but
why this is
like
why we do
because
these
you're
podcasts.
teaching me the journey with loneliness. Loneliness is like,
Mhm.
hand in hand with grief. Like
Yes,
it's just, and that
yes.
loneliness is like devastating. It's devastating. How did you navigate it? Because you know what I found? Because sometimes um you want to like stay busy and have these
Mhm,
tasks to do because at least it is distracting, if you
mhm.
have work or things to get done. But there you can't avoid those moments like that sneak up on you where you're
No,
you're alone with your thoughts, and that loneliness, you have to confront it. And
yeah,
it
that's what it's there
also
for.
happens on a time where, I think when tragedy, and people always say it, weddings and funerals is, when you find out people who they truly are or whatever, and like
Mhm.
the people you thought would be there
Aren't there.
aren't there.
See,
And
that's
sometimes
grief.
it's like total strangers who you
Uh-huh.
didn't anticipate would be there. Are there the kindness of strangers? But so what happens is you're forced to deal with the loneliness. Like,
Yeah.
and how do you handle it?
I became friends with it.
Hmm.
See, I've
That's
been
great.
alone for majority of my life. Everything I've had to experience, every homeless situation, anytime that a friend, was killed or something like that, I was alone. I was always alone. And that's where I found my strength at, right? Because it was like it forced me to deal with the things that I kept running from. And so my loneliness became my friend. It became it became my traveling partner, just like
Wow.
my grief, right? Because I knew that, I couldn't, I wasn't going to depend on someone else to come and save me, you know.
Or
So
run away from it. Run away
yeah,
from that
and
loneliness. Yeah.
and that's what happened. And in my loneliness, it took me back into my childhood, and I had to become the person that I needed when I was a child, when I was molested, right? I had to become that source of strength that I didn't have. And then once I was able to hold on to that child that was inside of me in my loneliness, I was able to hold him and say, hey, I know it's going to be rough, but I got you. And I began to walk with that child into adulthood. And that's how my loneliness became my friend. It revealed who I was. It stripped away everything that I thought that I needed, right? And let me know that I didn't need any of that. I just needed to come to terms. I needed to be honest with my journey. And I needed to be who I needed to be when I was 6, when I was 8, when I was 13 and 15 and all of those things. And so to walk with that child into adulthood was the biggest gift that loneliness ever gave me. So loneliness, is as crazy as it sounds, it doesn't have to be um it doesn't have to be the thing that destroys you. Let it be the thing that builds you.
I feel like I'm speaking to Jesus. Thank you.
Well, you can, but but that's what it was though.
Yeah.
Was the thing that helped me out the most because being alone um taught me to be with myself. It taught me to love myself more
I
because
never thought of it that way, like looking at it as a friend, because it's,
yeah,
I think, the Surgeon General said that was like America's biggest public health problem. And I think we look at loneliness as a problem to be fixed.
right. And
Okay,
it's
let's see
nothing
how we can get you connected. Let's see,
right, right.
join this group or go start playing
Hmm.
basketball or, I mean, we have all these things that to help us not feel lonely. I never looked at it the way you just described it as no, be grateful for it.
Yeah, be grateful for it.
Yeah.
Think about this. A lot of people that are afraid of being alone is because they're afraid of being with themselves, right? Most people who are afraid of being alone don't love themselves. That's why they go out and search for other people. They look for validation. You know what I'm saying? They go out there, and what ends up happening is that they make bad decisions that add on to what they're already going through. So if you look at loneliness as a way to reconnect with yourself, your true self, and let it take you on that journey, coming out the other side, when you're ready to connect, you're walking up on people going, I love myself. So if you tell me that you love me, that's secondary. If I don't get a I love you today, that's fine. I love myself first because my loneliness taught me that. My loneliness said, hey, I'm not going anywhere. So you're going to have to deal with me one way or another. But in my loneliness as well, I almost destroyed myself because I was afraid of the thing that was inside of me. Right. And it was like, growing up the way that I did, it was survival. I had to survive. I had to do things that, you know, may other people may not look at, as the best decisions, but I had to do those things. And my loneliness made me face that. My loneliness said, hey, I know that you're there, but you don't get to control me anymore.
Yeah.
You don't get to take what little bit humanity I have left, right? And inside of that, my loneliness said, I love you and let me give this to you. Because inside of there is how I was born, the person that you see inside of me. See, you're born two times. Well, actually, you're born a little bit more than that. You're born today from your mother and your father, right? From the womb. You're born again when you become a teenager, right? Because now your world changes around. Now you're born again when you lose someone because now your world has changed. And then you're born again when you realize why you're here.
Yes.
That's what loneliness teaches you. It's not a traumatic thing. It really isn't.
In ancient Hindu scriptures, there's a story of a goddess named Sita. And
Hmm.
basically the story is, and I was like, oh my God, I'm living, it's funny because that's my mother's name, but I was like, I'm living her life. Like, um, she she gets she's married and she ends up being banished to the woods. And she's pregnant with twin
Hmm.
boys. And so she has to raise these boys by herself in the woods, and she's like this enlightened person, and in throughout the her journey she encounters like all kinds of evil forces and stuff, and it's basically like in every religion, the battle between good versus evil kind of
Yeah.
thing, and good overcoming evil. But she is like enlightened, but she doesn't know it. Like,
Right.
so
Yes.
how she lives her life with compassion and fortitude and the the um the ability to just bear the suffering
Hmm.
and walk through it is like kind of a guideline for all of us. And it was so strange because I was like reading about it after David died, and I'm like, my goodness, like, am I living this kind of journey in the same
Uh-huh.
way? Like,
Yeah.
but she does it alone. Like, she's alone, and but some force is guiding her and
Yeah.
is there comforting her in a way. So I think that's profound. I think to make friends with it and
Yeah.
just
Well, it's not
say,
going
okay,
anywhere.
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere, right? And it's a part of who you are. So why would you deny yourself that?
Yeah.
Right? It's okay to be alone, right?
Yeah.
Because while you're alone and you're developing and you're growing and you're turning into the person that you're supposed to be, other people will come along. Other people will come along to show you that you're not by yourself. See, this work that we do, there's so many of us that walk parallel to each other. We just can't see each other across the way, right? Until one day we come into this middle point and you're looking around like, holy crap, where did you guys come from? Say like right now, right? We're coming to that point. And now you're seeing that you're not by yourself. Loneliness is a state of mind. It's a friend of yours. It's key, it's telling you, it's teaching you and guiding you where you need to be. Now, during this time, you have to make certain choices, whether if you're going to let the loneliness take you over or you're going to let the loneliness teach you and guide you into the life that you're supposed to be in. Those are the choices that you're going to have to make. No one else can make those for you. Inside of there, if you choose one path, it's going to teach you to love unconditionally because you already know what it's like not to have or to lose, right? You're going to learn how to take care of yourself. And the reason why you're going to learn how to take care of yourself, because it's self-care. This is going to teach you for the next person to come along. If they ever try to mistreat you, you're going to know right off the bat because grief makes you vulnerable, right? Those losses make you vulnerable. So once you start to go through those things, you start to take care of yourself. The next person come in and, you're going to be like, oh, okay. If that person does things that you're not going, that doesn't fit you, you're going to go, no, I don't like that. See, you're making a choice. That's what
Yeah.
this teaches you.
Yeah, because I think in the beginning, like, you have to learn how to set boundaries because when you're
Mhm.
vulnerable, some those boundaries get tested, and
Yeah, they're supposed
there's
to.
there's even when you're not vulnerable, boundaries get tested, and
They're supposed
I
to.
yeah, and it's you learn the skill of how to protect yourself and how to, in a way like that is
Not really
aligned with where you're
protect
supposed.
yourself. Not in a way, yes. In a lot of ways, no. What it does, it teaches you how to love yourself
Yeah,
unconditionally because no one's going to love you like you love you.
yeah, yeah,
That's a guarantee. So once you start to do that, yes, those boundaries are there, but you begin to develop those skills to make you feel good. You love yourself unconditionally. And once you start to do that, anyone else that comes in after that don't love you the way that you can love yourself. Oh no. But it takes that one person to come in and go, I see what you're doing. And I want to take what you're doing to yourself and I want to magnify that for you. But you have to be patient. Being lonely teaches you grace. It teaches you patience. It teaches you to appreciate who you are, right, in this world. And then the more you begin to do that, the more you fill up, right? The more you fill up, the more you're able to give. The more you give, the more you're going to get. That's just how this thing works out, right?
I meet kids, through my
Mhm,
work who they've lost one parent
mhm,
either through death or drugs or, incarceration or whatever.
mhm,
Often they've lost both parents to the same things
mhm.
and they end up in foster care. And, I see my role is if I can give them 5 minutes of hope or a respite
There you go.
from dealing with all of that, then that's worth it. Like it's, even if I can give
There you
them hope
go.
for 5 minutes that this
Uh-huh.
is not defined who you are and what your life is going to be. Like you can create something beautiful in spite of this. And it's, you know, I
There you
feel
go.
like that
Yeah.
consistency or having one person who believes in them, it's so imperative.
Yes. But you also have to surround yourself with people that speak the same language as you. And so we'll talk after the podcast. So I want to invite you to another family that I helped create outside of Memories of Us. So I have another charitable organization called the Global Grief Network, and so it's a family of grief workers, mental health practitioners that we come together, we're able to talk to each other, support each other, and love on each other in times of need and things like that. Just putting that out there.
Great, Tony.
I would love to
I think
invite
that's
you to that,
wonderful.
Pam.
I
Yeah.
would love to be part of it.
All
So,
right. Now we're gonna do
I'm
this.
so grateful for the work that you're doing because I think uh, you kind of summarize things and return it in a way that is so practical and touching and inspirational. You know, it's so, I think you're in the right place doing what you're supposed to be doing, I think.
We all are here in the right place, and I could not have gotten here without other people's help, right? Um, and so I've just been pretty fortunate to be able to give back what other people have poured into me, but also what this life has taught me, right? Because I know what my gift is. I know that I can't carry it with me. So I work as if I owe it, because I do. I'd be a fool if I took this thing to the graveyard. Why would I contribute to the graveyard? That's the richest place in the world. You know that?
Yes, I do. I
That's the
do.
richest
I
place.
do.
So why
Yeah.
would I take this thing, right? This beautiful thing that was born out of the most hurtful things I've ever gone through. Why would I take that to me to the grave? That doesn't make sense to me. I got books that never been written. I got people I've never met. I got stories that never been told. I got
Documentaries that have not been made.
right,
Yeah.
all of these beautiful things that I can still contribute to this world. See, my goal is that when I leave this place and I go see my father, and I want to go in front of him with a sign that says all used up, meaning there's nothing else left in me. Everything that you've given me, I want to give away. I don't want nothing else left. Why? Because when I see my son and I see my parents and my grandparents and the friends that have gone before me, I want to go in front of them and I want to be open to the things that they're going to give me in that moment. But everything while I'm here and on this earth, I owe that. I owe that to the people that I encounter. And I'm going to give it to them because I'm dedicated to give it to them. You know what I'm saying? Because if I can help the next person, I know that you're going to have the strength to give it to the next person that you encounter, right? That's how we pay this thing forward, right? I give to you, you give to someone else without expectations, right? Because the goal is we're supposed to leave people better than what we found them. Once we learn how to breathe, once we
Yeah.
learn how to appreciate who we are and love
Once we put on
ourselves,
our oxygen
right?
mask.
Once we put on that oxygen mask and we can brush the dirt off of our butts or off our knees, and you know what I'm saying? Because your journey is going to show where you fail. It's going to show where you got up. It's going to show where you fell again. It's going to show the strength that you keep getting up. It's going to show where you lay it down. It's going to show where you had nothing else left, but you found the courage because you got something. You got something that most people don't have. You got that little boy sitting there over there, and he's looking at you because he needs your guidance, right? And you carry the memory of his father.
Can you tell me about your son? And I'll tell you a bit about David.
Yeah. Um, Jake he was a beautiful kid. His mother was German, so he's biracial. He's skinny, wore glasses like me, right? Very intelligent kid. Always got me in trouble. Always got me in trouble.
Mm.
I see, he, wow, he used to try to set me up, like, because it was just me and him for a long time. His childhood was rough. His mother um, kept him away from me for 2.5 years. So I had to go to court. I had to fight the courts to get custody of him. She lied on me so many times, made me seem like the bad guy. She beat me up pretty good. She was a true narcissist. And so when my son was 2.5 years old, I was able to see him once a week, which I had to pay for. The courts used to beat me up, but I never let him see me down or anything like that, no matter how frustrating it was. He always saw a smile on my face. He always saw me get back up and keep it moving. When I got custody of him, it took me a little work to do because I never knew what it was. I never knew. I, I didn't know what a father was, right? I just barely knew what a man was. So I began to search, but not in the sense that most people think. I believe in God. I have a hard time with religion. So I went to God. I said, look, I don't know how to be a father. And God said, I'm gonna teach you. I said, well, I don't even know what it's like to be a man. God says, I'm gonna bring people around, good men around you that can be good role models to you. I said, okay. So he did. And I began to learn. I began to lean into my faith. I began to lean into God, and I began to pay attention. And I began to pour that into my son. And now my son, he watched his older sister being molested after they were stripped out of his mother's home. His mom was alcoholic, so she was verbally and physically abusive to him. So when I got a hold of him, he was in survival mode at the age of 4. And I was like, whoa. So being a man that I was like, oh, you want to act up and things because I didn't know, right? So when you don't know, you tend to revert back to the things that, you know, that you know. And so I knew to spank his butt. So I spanked his butt. No, stop it. And every time I spanked his butt, he would get more aggressive. And he was strong for his age, right? I was like,
Yeah.
oh, all right. So once I found out all of that, I had to rethink how I was parenting him. And once I did that, he told me one day, we was driving around, and he and I used to have some heart-to-hearts all the time. And he says, Daddy, you know, I don't know how to be an awesome kid, and you don't know how to be an awesome dad. So what we're going to do, we're going to make an agreement. You're going to teach me how to be an awesome kid, and I'm going to teach you how to be an awesome dad. And I said, all righty
Wow.
then. Yeah. And so ever since then, he and I had this bond that you cannot, we talked about everything. And then what I mean by he used to always get me in trouble. So there was one instance, we was in a grocery store buying groceries, and I didn't notice that there was a female on the other side of the counter where the flowers were, but he noticed it. And so I'm just walking around pushing the buggy, grabbing stuff, and he darts over there to where the flowers, and he's looking at me, and he's looking at the flowers, and he's looking behind the counter. So he bends down, he smells the flowers. He goes, Dad, sometimes you just got to stop and smell the flowers. Now, he had set me up because the girl behind the counter saw what he did and heard him. And she was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. And he starts laughing and he runs off. I was like, trust me, he did. I'm so sorry. So he used to do things like that to me, right? We used to go to the playground, play on the playground all the time. Him and his friends, like I said before, they used to kick me off the playground. You're too big. Dad, get off the playground. It's for me and my friends. And then I go climb a tree. We go climb the tallest tree and sit up at the top and just watch everything. We love fishing. So we went fishing all the time. We went to church every Sunday. And he used to love watching me cook. I love cooking. So he was like, Dad, what are you cooking? I was like, this is what I'm cooking. Okay, I'm gonna pull up my chair. And he would stand up there and watch me. What can I do to help? So he and I participated in all of those things, right? And he loved to dance. He had a heart of gold. So his teachers, and I didn't find this out until after he passed away, but he used to, if a kid was having trouble or something like that, he would go see that kid and make friends with them and get them to start laughing and, teach this kid how to dance and things like that and bring smile. I was like, huh, okay. I asked him what he wanted to be when he was younger, and he says he wanted to be a sniper. I said, well, why would you want to be a sniper? He goes, because I want to help those who cannot help themselves. That's when I realized that he had the heart. He wanted to help other people. So I said, okay. I said, well, we're going to do the things that you need to do to be the best sniper that you can be. You got to go to the military. You're going to have to keep good grades. And he says, yes, sir. And he started doing it. We started working out together. I started a personal training company when he was younger, and I was teaching him about personal training. And so when he got older, it was initially supposed to have been his. And so he was my workout buddy. He was my He was my road buddy. He was my fishing buddy. We went bowling. He was my troublemaker buddy. Um, he was he was the best version of me. That kid inspired me so much to do the right thing no matter what. And he had no problems with reminding me of how much he loved me. And I had no problems with reminding him of how much I loved him. He was my heart. So when he passed away, my heart was broken. And even now, he is still the biggest inspiration for me because throughout his loss, I found me, right? But I was able to find him too in me. And so that's Jake in a nutshell. He was a brilliant kid. He was an awesome friend. He was a good brother. He was everything that I would consider the sort of relationship a parent should have with their kid and a kid should have with their parent, right? You got to know how to discipline them. You got to know how to teach them, but you also got to know how to love them the way that they need to be loved. But you also got to be open to them teaching you, loving on you as well, right? Because kids will teach you how to love them, just like you teach a child how to love you. And it's one of those things when you come together, it's a beautiful thing. It's a truly beautiful thing. Just allow it to happen. And don't be afraid to get out there and climb those trees. Don't be afraid to get on that swing and swing with them, because it's worth it. It's definitely
Nice.
worth it. So don't be afraid to laugh. Don't be afraid to let them see you cry. Don't be afraid to see, because you got to remember one thing, just how you're watching them, they're watching you too.
Yeah. Yeah. They watch you more than hear you, to be honest.
They watch it because
Yeah.
they'll listen to you and they learn at a very early age that, what I'm saying, they can listen to someone, but they're watching your actions. Do your actions match your words? And a lot of times, if they call you out on it, you can't get mad because you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing.
David, my husband, was this. Thank you. Thank you for telling me about Jake.
Yes.
David was this like really emotionally intelligent person more
Mhm.
than you know most people, and he just had this kind of open-heartedness about him that was transparent, and his love was very larger than life, and he felt things deeply, and he was just so I just like forgiving to a fault. Sometimes I felt, and he just gave so much to people. Like
Mhm.
people just loved being around David. In fact, when he got sick, it was hard because people were kind of very possessive over him, and everybody
Mhm.
wanted time with him. And I'm here, the pregnant wife, who's, I almost felt like I lost him before I lost him because
Right.
I had to just, let all the people who loved him in, and me just kind of be at a distance because I became, when you have a spouse that gets sick, like it's hard to be an intimate partner and a caregiver. At some point, you choose one or the other. Like you can't, if you become the caregiver at the end, you can't also be the independent partner,
You can.
in a way.
You
But
can.
it's a difficult thing. Like then they don't always come to you with their emotional fears because they'll go and cry on someone else's shoulder
Right.
because it's too hard to come to me. I'm pregnant and I'm needing some comfort, and like he's scared, and so it was challenging. I mean, it's a hard balance, what I'm trying to say. Like it's
Yeah.
hard to be the person who cares for somebody physically and then to like also have that as well. And like, and you can, but sometimes people don't think you can and they don't want you to either. They want to
Right.
be, they want to kind of, so like I often, like towards the end, I just felt completely like marginalized because there was so much love around David. And
Mm.
now I can understand that's because David had so much love to give that everybody wanted to be around it,
Mhm.
you know, and that was it was difficult, right? So Yeah, and he was just this nurturing soul who didn't, he was totally comfortable crying at a movie. And, you know, something, he was very in touch with his emotions and he was comfortable showing them. And he just was so loving and so nurturing and just, you know, really taught me how to love myself and, you know, how to look at life differently. And he healed me, and the parts of me that I didn't think, you know, could be healed, he did. And um yeah, and you know, my doctor asked me, you know, after his death, because I was like, this is so hard. And my doctor asked, was it worth it? And I was like, absolutely.
Man,
Absolutely. David off brought a richness to my life that I would have not otherwise known. Just as Jake brought this richness to your life, even though the
mhm.
loss of them is so painful at times, like we wouldn't have had it any other way.
There you go.
I had to be David's caregiver at the end and throughout his journey, like I wanted to be that. Like
Yeah,
even if that meant I had to, you know, not be the fun, like, you know, we couldn't have the fun stuff, like, you know, so but I it was so worth it. All of it. Yeah.
that right there.
Yeah.
That right there, what you just said, hold on to that. As long as you can keep
Yeah.
that it was worth it, that's what it's about.
Yeah.
That's what it's about, because you can lose a person and you know you can have so many bad memories with this individual and you look at that individual like, yeah, I'm glad you're gone, right? You feel some sort of way about that. But when you can look at an individual that you lost and go, it was worth it, yeah, that's what that's about. That's what that's inside of here is about. You're supposed to hold on to that right there, because as long as it stays worth it, you will always keep a smile on your face and your heart will always smile, because you got something that most people didn't get a chance to get,
Yeah.
right? And that's yours.
Yeah.
That's yours. And if you have no regrets. So yeah, hold on to that. Definitely hold on to that. See, that's why I love doing these podcasts. That's why I
Yeah.
love sharing these stories. See, we went deep.
Yeah. Yeah. It was
We went
great.
very it was very great. So with that being said, because we've been going for quite some time,
Yeah. 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 We have been,
and
but
I will
thank
always
you.
have you on again as well. So we can always talk about other things and stuff like that. And so yeah, if you had any words to give anybody out there right now, what would you give them?
Wow. You can do this. You can do this life.
Okay, I like that. I definitely like that. Well, I want to say thank you for being on the show today. Thank you for sharing such an amazing journey with me and having an awesome conversation. We shared a whole lot today. The audiences, they're gonna they're gonna love this. They're definitely gonna love this. And so it was my honor to have you on. And I look forward to speaking to you more and having you on, some other things that I'm doing as well. So, and with the audience out there, you guys wipe your eyes, please wipe your eyes. I know you guys had those tears going too, man. My heart, I thank you guys as always, for allowing us to support you, to bring these amazing stories to you. And this is not the last time that you're going to see Anandhi.
Yeah.
This is not the last time you're going to
Yeah.
see her. She's going to be a part of the family as well. So, and with that being said, you guys keep your head up and just remember, this road that you're on, this grief journey that you're on, you don't have to do it alone. But appreciate those moments when you are alone, because it's there to teach you, it's not there to destroy you. Either which choices that you make, there's people out here that's willing to walk with you. And until next time, thank you. We love you. Keep your head up. And we will see you guys next time.